Biden to forgive another $5 billion in student debt for 74,000 borrowers just a week after announcing separate plan. Are you affected? Yo, Joe Biden is pouring gasoline on this country and lighting it on fire.
He's just trying to purchase votes.
This student loan stuff drives me nuts. I actually got my loans forgiven. It had been 25 years and I hadn't missed a payment, which I think is why. So they targeted me first. But now it's just total extraction of wealth. I don't know where that $5 billion is. If they told Fannie Mae or whoever these loan companies are, you're not getting your money back, that's a different story. But if they're printing $5 billion to hand it to these private loan corporations and they're just forcing you to pay back your loans early that's ridiculous because it's costing us all money. It's costing us all in inflation. It's devaluing all of our currency by printing money.
You know, as we watch Sports Illustrated crumble and Bud Light may be on the verge of collapse, Joe Biden is just throwing money in the air while screaming yeehaw. Part of me thinks like we're going to have to start rebuilding, like we're building the parallel economy. We better crank that thing up, man, because we're going to need institutions of our own to help so that we survive.
Yeah, and like for someone like Biden too, it's like you make the argument that this isn't sustainable. You can't keep doing this. It's like, well, why does he care? He's not going to be around. And, you know, to the point about like purchasing votes, like, I mean, didn't he already tried something like this also, and then it like got struck down or whatever? Like these people are going to like turn on him too, because, you know, he's going to overpromise again. And, you know, I just don't think it's going to work. But even like this plan right there, if it does, like it's not going to be sustainable. But he doesn't really.
You need people that are willing to say, I don't want the free money.
Yeah,
that's just not going to happen because the Titanic has hit the iceberg and everybody's trying to steal as much as they can before the ship sinks.
Did you hear the theory that the Titanic got hit by a U-boat? Got sunk?
Okay, anyway, so
I want to talk about that.
The issue that we're dealing with is that all of the people, a large portion of the people in this country are just like, let me extract from the system whatever I can as it's sinking. And Joe Biden is just making it rain. Yeah. And he's like, spend it while you can, baby.
How do we instantiate honor in the species to be like, stop giving me this money. I don't want it.
Well, I mean, you can't do that to like kids that already are like, you know, have already got the debt. You're not going to get kids that have signed on to what they assumed was the deal. If I go to school and I study and I get a good grades, I'll get out and I'll get a good job. There will be a job for me. That's not the way that things are panning out. And there's not a lot of great answers for those kids. If they spent a lot of money on a degree that doesn't have a job to go with it, or there's no market for that job, they're kind of effed.
We had someone call into the members only show and said that their significant other was a trooper in Texas and that they've begun discussing fears of civil war because the Biden administration may start arresting Texas law enforcement. We have not confirmed any of this. And so just the general idea is difficult to bring up because someone's saying it. We reached out and they're like, no, we don't want to talk about this. We're done. And maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's fake news. Maybe someone was lying to us to try and sensationalize what's going on. But the reason why it would make sense in either direction is that Texas has begun arresting illegal immigrants, and we have what is quite literally a Fort Sumter circumstance, where the federal government is saying, this is our jurisdiction, and a state has deployed armed soldiers to push them out and say, no, it's not, it's ours now. So with Fort Sumter, you have the Union forces at Fort Sumter and the South Carolina being like, hey, get out, it's ours now. And then Union saying no. Now you have federal law enforcement on the border saying the border is our authority, and Texas National Guard deployed armed soldiers to push them out, take control of the area, and begin arresting not illegal immigrants. Sooner or later, this reaches a head in some way. Either it's going to be the federal government just gives up, and then other states recognize the federal authority is gone and eroded, or the federal government responds with force, or something like that happens. I bring it up in this context because I'm like, everything I see Joe Biden do and the Democratic establishment, I don't see any long-term planning. I see them basically just setting fire to the curtains before they leave.
Yeah, I don't see the long-term planning. It does feel like all like kind of let's do right now what's good for now.
No, they're like, okay, we're getting kicked out. Light it up. I knew a guy once who got evicted from his apartment. So he took Hershey's syrup and he squirted it into the cracks of every nook of the building. Yeah, bad guy. And he was like, this will teach him. And I'm like, I think you already taught him by not paying rent. But this is the idea. Like the Democrats, they're getting evicted. So they're like, set fire to the whole thing.
Well, I mean, the Thucydides trap stuff comes to mind because the United States as a strong economic power with a strong military, facing an up and coming China means, conflict, and the idea that the United States needs to be weaker, or a managed decline. That's not something that's so far-fetched or something that hasn't been discussed. Like Barack Obama essentially said this, said that the United States was going to manage being not the superpower, just be another country among many. And that takes a certain amount of, of management to get to the point where the U.S. economy is not the dominant economy.
And also some level of acquiescence, because like half the country, and I don't know the exact numbers, is like, screw that. No, we're maintaining hegemon. We are going to be America first, the greatest country on earth. Try and take it, please, because you're not going to get it.
Well, I mean, yeah, there are people, and the thing is, yes, but a big part of the problem is this hasn't been proposed to the American people. There was no like vote about this or any kind of inquiry into, hey, America, do you want to start passing laws or signing on to treaties that actually kind of weaken the United States power, over or its own sovereignty, that we're listening to foreign powers like and NGOs and stuff or whatever. Like, do we want the United States to sign on to those things? And a lot of times the American people don't pay attention. And so because the politicians that do sign on, or that actually are the ones that are like, yes, we should plan this kind of stuff, because that stuff happens quietly, your average person doesn't know, so they get reelected. And
also, like, if they had been like, yo, we're going to reduce the American hegemonic power, we want to get rid of these American military bases, and we're going to co-parent the earth with the Chinese Communist Party, with the Russians, and with the corporations, I'd be open to that if you give me a plan, because I don't like American military police necessarily on its face. It's caused a lot of pain and suffering, probably unnecessarily. But you better give me a way that's going to be better than the stability we've had over the last 70 years.
They're already making the play that I predicted a couple weeks ago. Trump had received support from a mere 56,000 caucus goers, amounting to some 7% of registered Republicans in the state and just 3% of overall registered voters in Iowa. They're already pushing the narrative that Donald Trump is winning in the absolute minority, and they will use that to justify barring him from power. So my prediction was they're going to remove him from the ballot in a bunch of states. If they do, Trump will win the Electoral College. But if California removes Trump, he loses 10 million Republican votes. He was never going to win the electoral votes in that state anyway. But now he's going to win the general election with 40 million to Biden 70. And they're going to say, this can't be. Yeah. All the left is going to say, wow, no one should be president if with that little votes, this makes no sense. That will be their in essence, casus belli for why they're okay with the use of force to stop Trump from taking the presidency, even after he won the election. They'll say, we're not the bad guys. Trump didn't actually win. The system is broken. He only got, 30%. And they're going to be, he's not the real president. That's what they did in Egypt.
They already want to abolish the Electoral College. So
right, exactly. And you're going to have Democrats coming out and being like, this country does not want Donald Trump. The majority of people voted against him. We should not allow him to just use a technicality to take power and turn this country into a fascist dictatorship. They are already making the argument. In Iowa, 7% of the voters voted for Trump, and he won. That is not the will of the people. They're making an argument on quote unquote democracy.
Is that a real number?
Yes.
I thought that he polled 70% of the caucus itself, but that was only 7%.
Record low voter turnout for the caucus.
It was cold too. That day was a bad vote. Day.
And Trump got Trump got around 7% of the registered Republicans.
Wow.
7%. And so, but this is how elections happen. What's the argument? The Democrats, the Republicans who don't show up should have a say? No, you don't show up, you didn't vote. Abstain. There you go. Your vote was abstain.
Well, not showing up isn't a problem for Democrats. They mail you a ballot.
Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, that is worth mentioning if you know, people are going to say things like, oh, well, you know, showing up, you know, blah, 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 blah. It's like, well, you know, maybe they should show up if their vote's going to count, right?
Well, Biden was saying it meant nothing or whatever. Iowa means nothing, but like he finished 4th in Iowa in 2020, and then
that's why.
Yeah, I know. And then also like he got like, you know, I think it was like 20,000 or something votes, and it's, you know, and he's the president, so
I don't think there's going to be a Super Tuesday, and this is rough for us because we're trying to plan this event. We want to do a big like live show in West Virginia. But I'm just like, man, we're going to spend all this money setting up this live show and like making tickets.
No one's going to be left.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, right. No, Nikki Haley and DeSantis will drop out. We thought Ron was going to drop out today because he announced a press conference or something. So the Politico announced he was having a press conference and he never showed up.
Yeah.
Or he didn't show up for like half an hour. I don't know what happened. Did he ever show up?
I don't know.
I didn't even see. I tried.
Vermin Supreme.
Yeah. I tried looking for it, and Vermin Supreme kept popping up.
Sent his champion. DeSantis sent his champion in his stead.
Well, it was funny because Laura Loomer was like, why is this man who posed naked with Mickey Mouse gloves appearing at a Ron DeSantis event? And it's like, it's a good question, but I don't blame Ron for Vermin Supreme crashing the party.
Yeah.
But either way, if he was invited or not, that just like speaks to the state of his campaign right now.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.